Good day, my dear people of God. In my last broadcast, I promised to let us in on how the Vice President, Pastor Yemi Osinbajo, gave heaven or gave God access to governance in Nigeria. For a proper understanding, we need to know the kind of spiritual influence or atmosphere that existed in Nigeria. And this can be deduced from a write-up done by a one-time government official with President Goodluck Jonathan, and is the person of Reuben Abati. He was a special advisor on media and publicity to former President Goodluck Jonathan. Nothing and no one captured the spiritual state of the nation like he did in his write-up titled The Spiritual Side of Aso Rock. So, I would like to show us how it was so we can appreciate where we are now. This is very important because it gives light to many of the things we have talked about. Praise the Lord. I quote him: people tend to be alarmed when the Nigerian presidency takes a certain decision or makes certain decisions. They don't think the decision makes sense. Sometimes they wonder if something has gone wrong with the thinking process at that highest level of the country. I bet people insist that there is some kind of witchcraft at work in the country seat of government. I am ordinarily not a superstitious person, but working in the villa, I eventually became convinced that there must be something supernatural about power and closeness to it. I'll start with a personal testimony. I was given an apartment to live in inside the villa. It was furnished and equipped. But when my son, Michael, arrived, one of my brothers came with a pastor who was supposed to stay in the apartment. But the man refused, claiming that the villa was full of evil spirits and that there would soon be fire in the apartment. He complained about too much human sacrifices around the villa and advised that my family must never sleep overnight inside the villa. I thought the man was talking nonsense and he wanted the luxury of a hotel accommodation. But it turned out to be right. The day I hosted family friends in that apartment and they slept overnight, there was indeed a fire accident. The guests escaped and they were so thankful. Not long after that, the president's physician, living 2 compounds away, had a fire accident in his home. He and his children could have died. He escaped with bruises. Around the villa, while I was there, someone always died, or their relations died. I can confirm that every principal officer suffered one tragedy or the other. It was as if you needed to sacrifice something to remain on duty inside that environment. Even some of the women became merchants of dido because they had suffered a special kind of death in their homes. And many of the men complained about something that had died below their waist too. The ones who did not have such misfortune had one ailment or the other that they had to nurse, from cancer to brain and prostate surgery and whatever. The villa was a hospital full of agonizing patients. I recall the example of one particular man, an asset to the Jonathan presidency, who practically ran away from the villa. He said he needed to save his life. He was quite certain that if he continued to hang around, he would die. I can't talk about colleagues who lost daughters and sons, brothers and uncles, mothers and fathers, and the many obituaries that we issued. Even the president was multiply bereaved. His wife, Mama Peace, was in and out of hospital at a point, undergoing many surgeries. You may have forgotten, but after her husband lost the election and he conceded victory, all her ailments vanished All scheduled surgeries were found to be no longer necessary. And since then, she has been healed and healthy. Let me pause there a while. Don't forget, we have told you that it was the devil that wanted to kill President Buhari. It was the devil that wanted to kill the vice president through that helicopter crash. We have told you that. So you see how these forces were operating, working against governance in Nigeria. Okay, so let's continue. It says, where did I stop? Okay. By the same token, still continue now, reading from his write-up. By the same token, all those are colleagues who used to come to work to complain about a certain death beneath their waists and who relied on videos and other instruments to entertain wives have all experienced a reawakening. Everyone who went under the blade has received the miraculous healing, and we are happy to be out of that place. But others were not so lucky. They died. There were days when convoys ran into ditches and lives were lost. In Norway, a helicopter almost crashed into the mountain. That was the first time I saw the president panicking. The weather was also hazy, and he just kept saying it would not be nice for the president of a country to die in a helicopter crash due to pilots' miscalculations. The president went into a prayer mode. We survived. In Kenya once, we had a bird strike. The plane had to be recalled, and we were already airborne with the plane acting like it was going to crash. During the 2015 election, or during the 2015 election campaigns, our aircraft refused to start on more than one occasion. The aircraft just went dead. On some other occasions, we were stoned and directly targeted for evil. I really don't envy people who work in Aso Rock, the seat of Nigeria's presidency. For about 6 months, I couldn't even breathe properly. For another 2 months, I was on crutches, but I considered myself far luckier than the others who were either nursing a terminal disease or could not get it up. When presidents make mistakes, they are probably victims of a force higher than what we can imagine. Every student of Aso Rock or Aso Villa would really admit that when people get in there, they actually become something else. They act like they are under a spell. When you issue a well-crafted statement, the public accepts it wrongly. When the president makes a speech and it truly means well, the speech is interpreted wrongly by the public. When a policy is introduced, somehow something just goes wrong. Let's also pause there. Don't forget, we have told us that every president that has ruled this country meant well. Even Abacha meant well. Abacha. Let me tell us now, even the one that we say is evil, Abacha, he meant well. Obasanjo meant well. Goodluck Jonathan meant well. Buhari meant well and still means well, even till now. But like this guy said, there were forces that were, working against them, that made it impossible for them to do what they thought was good or what they wanted to do or what they felt was right for the country. Even when they attempted, those forces ensure that those things don't ever work. every student of Aso Rock, going back, so I'm still reading, I want to start reading again from his write-up. Every student of Aso Rock Villa would readily admit that when people get in there, they actually become something less. They act like they're under a spell. Did you get that? When you issue a well-crafted statement, the public accepts it wrongly. When the president makes a speech and he truly means well, the speech is interpreted wrongly by the public. When a policy is introduced, somehow something just goes wrong. In our days, a lot of people used to complain that the APC people were fighting us spiritually, and that there was a witchcraft dimension to the governance process in Nigeria. So you see, full stop, I'm pausing there now. I want to just highlight something there. See, so PDP thought APC was using witchcraft on them. That's tell you how bad things were. They thought they were using spiritual means to ensure that they failed. Now let me continue. But the APC folks now in power are dealing with the same demons. Since Buhari government assumed office, it has been one mistake after another. Those mistakes don't look normal, the same way they didn't look normal under President Goodluck Jonathan. I'm therefore convinced that there is an evil spell enveloping this country. We need to rescue Nigeria from the forces of darkness. Aso Villa should be converted into a spiritual museum and abandoned. Should I become president of Nigeria tomorrow, I will build a new presidential villa. A villa that will be dedicated to the all-conquering Almighty, and where powers and principalities cannot hold sway. But it's not about buildings and space, not so. It's about the people who go to the highest levels in Nigeria. I really don't quite believe in superstitions, but I am tempted to suggest that this is indeed a country in need of prayers. He said, let me pause there too. A country. He says this is a country in need of prayers. Who is to pray, brethren? Listen to me. Follow me very well. Who is to do this praying? Who? Is it the government? Don't forget, I said the Nigerian project has two sides in the mind of God. The spiritual dimension and the physical dimension. And I have told us that it is the church. The church is expected to handle the spiritual side of God's project, while the government handles the physical side of God's project. In all of these years, the government has always been ready and available, but the church has not been. Don't forget, I have said that. I've stressed that over time. That the problem we've had in Nigeria is not government. You see, as it is what was happening, it's what happened in the seat of power that we see in the nation. This man said the villa needs plenty of prayer. According to him, he was certain that the villa needs prayers. That's what this man said, and really that was true, and it's still true. He's talking of his days. The days of the former President Goodluck Jonathan is what he's referring to now. Okay, let's continue. He said, let me go back a little. I don't quite believe in superstitions, but I am tempted to suggest that this is indeed a country in need of prayers. We should pray before people pack their things into Aso Rock. We should ask God to guide us before we appoint ministers. We should, to put it in technocratic language, advise that the people should be very vigilant. We have all failed so far. We have all failed so far. That crucial test of vigilance. We should have a presidential villa where a president can afford to be human and free. In the White House in the United States, presidents live like normal human beings. In Aso Villa, That is impossible. They have to surround themselves with cooks from their villages, bodyguards from their mother's clans, and friends they can trust. It should be possible to be president of Nigeria without having to look behind one's shoulders. But we are not yet there. So, how do we run a presidency where the man in the saddle can only drink water served by his kingsman? So, how can we possibly run a presidency where every president proclaims faith in Nigeria, but they are better off in the company of relatives and kinsmen? No. We need as presidents men and women who are willing to be Nigerians. No Nigerian president should be in spiritual bondage because he belongs to all of us and to nobody. Now, let me go back to the spiritual dimension. A colleague once told me that I was the most naive person around the place. I thought I was bright, smart, professional, doing my bit and enjoying the president's confidence. I spelled it out. But what I got in response was that I was coming to the villa using Lux soap, but that most people around the place always bathed in the morning with blood. Goat blood, ram's blood, whatever animal blood. I argued. He said there were persons in the villa walking upside down, head to the ground. I screamed. Everybody looked normal to me, but I soon began to suspect that I was in a strange environment. Indeed, every position change was an opportunity for warfare. Civil servants are very nice people. They obey orders, but they are not very nice when they fight over personal interests. The president is most affected by the atmosphere around him. He can make wrong decisions based on the cloud of evil around him. Even when he means well and he has taken time to address all possible outcomes, he could get on the wrong side of the public. A colleague called me one day and told me a story about how a decision had been taken in the spiritual realm about the Nigerian government. He talked about the spirit of error and how every step taken by the administration would appear to the public like an error. He didn't resign on that basis, but his words proved prophetic. I see the same story being reenacted. Asu Villa is in urgent need of redemption. I never slept in the apartment they gave me in that villa for an hour. I'd like to re-echo this last statement he made. Asu Villa is in urgent need of redemption. Listen, this was in 2016. He wrote this in 2016. Asu Villa is in urgent need of redemption. I never slept in the apartment they gave me in that villa for an hour. That's the end of his writing. Now, brethren, listen to me. During the time of Goodluck Jonathan, we had we had somebody who was in the CAN president at that time, or chairman, able Pastor Ayorise Jafo. What was he doing in Nasrok? He was more like the spiritual head or spiritual advisor to the president. With all of this happening in Nasrok, and he was there, what was he doing there? And we keep saying that Christians have been marginalized, Christians have not been in government. Listen to me, brethren, listen very well. The problem of Nigeria, I'm repeating it clearly, is the failure of the church to arise to our responsibility. How could you have had a man like Pastor Ayorise Jafo as the spiritual head of Aso Rock, and Aso Rock was in this state? How? And you see all of them shouting around, shouting and making all sorts of, I don't want to say they're making noise, but it amounts to noise. Like I said, they only found a man that they could, hang. by giving him a bad name. All our bishops are screaming everywhere. Where were they? They were flocking Aso Rock at that time, during the time of President Goodluck Jonathan. What did they do about this matter? What did they do? Don't worry. We will find out who God is on his side on this matter. We are going to find out, and it will be very soon. You hold on. I want to thank you for taking out time to listen to what I had to share this day. And in the next broadcast, I'm going to let you in on all that has happened or transpired. We have written about some of these things before, but I'll just like to do a recap on them so that we understand where we are. I want us to know how the president, the vice president, gave God access into governance. We have seen how it was. Why things have been going wrong in this country. This has been the state. Reuben Abati captured it very well, perfectly well. See you in the next broadcast. God bless you. You're welcome to the year of the supernatural.
Are you in Benin City? Join us on Thursdays by 5 p.m. at Wall Street Center, number 1 Dancing Road, last floor, shop 29, as we dig deeper into the mind of God concerning our nation. God bless you.